Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there and welcome back to You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com. And today I have a special guest. Her name is Tina Hallis. Hi, Tina.
Hey, how you doing, Cesar?
I am doing good. Thank you so much for being here at the show today. Really appreciate it. So before we get started, I want to give everybody a quick overview of Tina, and that way you guys can kind of get an idea of who she is and start setting the settings. So Tina is a Ph.D., is the founder of Positive Age. She's certified in positive psychology through the WholeBeing Institute and professional member of the National Speakers Association. She is the author of Sharpen Your Positive Age, Shifting Your Thoughts for More Positivity and Success. Tina worked over 20 years in biotechnology before discovering a new science called positive psychology in 2011. Seeing the powerful impact this information has on improving people in organizations, she decided to create her own company, The Positive Edge. Awesome. So Tina, that it seems like, I want to learn definitely a lot more about what is positive positive psychology. Before that, though, I wanted to get to know more on your background, and if you can give us more, like where did you come from, and what was your background before you got into any of this stuff?
Right. So I actually have a Ph.D. in chemistry. I worked for years in biotechnology. Some of my main focus was doing products and services to help Big Pharma with drug discovery. So loved the science, loved being in the lab, running experiments, working on these projects. It was fantastic and awesome. And then one day, as part of my corporate job, I was at a continuing education seminar. At the back of the room, the instructor had brought all these cool books. So I was back there looking at them, writing down notes. And there was one book that changed my life, and it was the Happiness Advantage by Shawn Achor. I ended up getting that book from the library just because I was, okay, I'll go learn more about it. Well, now I have my own copy with lots of notes and tabs in it. But that was my first introduction to positive psychology, and I was hooked.
Now, before you got into chemistry or science, were you doing anything before that, or that was always your passion since high school years?
I would have to say, even since high school, I've been pretty passionate about science. I went to college and got a degree in chemistry, worked for 5 years in industry in a few different jobs related to chemistry, and then 5 years later decided to go back to graduate school and get my Ph.D. because I wanted even more science. I wanted to dig deeper, have a deeper understanding. So, I would say I've been kind of a science nerd for a long time.
No, that's awesome. And so one thing here you mentioned is that there came a time in your career where you got laid off from your corporate job. How was that? What happened there that they decided to lay you off? And really more important, why did you decide to shift, careers on your own?
It was interesting that I was so hooked in this positive psychology, and I could see how important it was that I really wanted to share it with the people in my company. I wanted to really reach more people because I thought this could really not only help me, but help other people. So I decided to put together a talk for my own company, had a fantastic time learning more, figuring out how to make it relatable. And I loved doing it. It was so fun. And I remember afterwards getting all this great feedback, like, oh, that was so helpful. And then I was sad because it was over with. And I thought, oh, I want to do more of this. How do I do more of this? And interestingly, it was probably less than a year later, I was laid off. In fact, I think I was the fourth set of layoffs that year. 2 years later to the date, the whole site was shut down. You know, there was just a big transition in the focus of drug discovery. But I thought, okay, this is the universe kicking me in the butt saying it's time for me to go take this on my own and figure out how to do it. And I thought, you know, the fear, the anxiety, the waves of nausea, of uncertainty, of how do you start your own company? How do you become a speaker? How do you do this? I don't know how people get through that kind of uncertainty without having some of the tools I was so grateful to have that really helped me manage my stress.
Got it. So you already had some, obviously with the books and you already starting the psychology, the positive psychology, you've already had some ideas on how to go about doing that. And was there anything that might have said, you know what, I want to, I should just go back and get a regular job, or it really came down to, no, I'm going to take the leap of faith and just do my own thing?
Oh gosh, it's funny you say that because it was such a strange feeling. It was like, no, this is what I was meant to do. This is my next step in my path. I couldn't see very far down that path. I couldn't figure out exactly, you know, how to make this happen. But I remember a few years into it, one of my old bosses called me and said, hey, I know you've got this new, you know, this new business thing you're doing, but I'm at this new company and we're putting the old team together. We're going to be, you know, doing a lot of the same stuff that you're already good at. Would you consider coming back to work? And I remember this feeling in my stomach like, oh no. But at the same time, I said, well, let me think about it. And I'll never forget this conversation I had with my daughter, because now I'm working from home. I'm home so much more than, you know, in a corporate job where, you know, I was probably gone between driving an hour there and an hour back and working for 9-10 hours. You know, I hardly ever saw her. I think she was maybe 7 or 8. And she says, Mom, I understand that, you know, maybe money would be less of an issue, but, you know, we'd have to start our relationship all over again because I just, you know, you wouldn't be home. So it was quite a convincer to just keep going.
Yeah, it was definitely an eye opener to an extent too, right? I mean, wow, that's definitely a reason to say, you know what, let me just continue to do what I'm doing. And you know, that's one thing that I find a lot with people that that are thinking about moving or leaving their job, and they want to jump into doing something on their own. And there's always, you know, a few things. Number one, you know, you got to be prepared. You got to prepare yourself. I mean, you're never going to be prepared 100%, but you have to have an idea of more or less what is it that you're going to be doing, how are you going to be executing whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. And I know that can be very difficult. I know for myself, when I left my job a couple of times, several times after I left my job, they were calling me back to go and work for corporate. And I, you know, it's very similar to you. You know, I'm like, no, I'm already in this journey. I didn't want to go back, and I don't want to go back. Even now, they still calling me, and I'm like, I don't want to go back because I'm trying to do something different for my journey, right? And that could be very, very tempting. I think it's also kind of like the universe putting you into a test of, are you going to fall back again, or are you going to continue your journey, right? And so, having you going through all this, and what was the idea for you when it came down to, like, I need to start my own company? Like, what was that like in terms of preparation and saying, okay, well, I was laid off. I can pretend to be the victim or play the victim, or did I execute? And what was your planning process for that?
Well, I was very, very fortunate that, interestingly, even before I was laid off, I can't even remember how, but a friend at work had connected me with this networking group called a consulting networking group. So probably 2 days after being laid off, they had a meeting, and here I am. I'm at this meeting. I'm meeting people who are also in this entrepreneurship area, and at that meeting, someone there introduced me to the whole National Speakers Association, and they said, yeah, there's a local chapter. They have a meeting next week. So the next week I'm at this meeting. So it was really this journey of meeting like-minded people on similar journeys who could support, encourage, advise. Connecting with them was so important. And the National Speakers Association, since I wanted to really take this into speaking, was an incredible resource to help me figure this out. And I'll be honest, it was very scary because I was the main breadwinner. I had the health insurance. I think it was 2 months before the waves of nausea finally subsided. But again, just taking this path and figuring it out was really, really helpful to have those connections.
Yeah. So you mentioned networking, and I'm big on networking. I want to get your take on that. How critical is that for you to network with people? And specifically in this, what I consider to be self development or in even business development type of seminars, right? Where you are educating yourself through whatever speakers are speaking. How critical is that, for you to do in any kind of journey that you have?
And what I think is interesting, and this probably relates to a lot of other people, is I'm an introvert. So the idea of going to big networking events and just meeting people, overwhelming, right?
Right.
And not only that, I live about an hour north from our main big city around here. I'm outside of Madison, Wisconsin. So it's an hour drive there to go network, an hour drive home. So what I learned is after joining pretty much every networking group I heard about, because I assumed there was only like 5 or 6 out there. I didn't know there were hundreds out there.
Yeah.
By the time I was, overwhelmed with networking groups, I finally realized that I do best for my personality and my approach to network and connect with those people who are on a similar journey, who are like-minded. I know some people, it's really important. They're extroverts. They go out and they network for clients. They go out and network that's part of their marketing. That wasn't a good use of my time, but it was really helpful to network and get to know, make connections with people who were on similar journeys. We could brainstorm together. We could support each other. So that helped a lot for me.
Yeah, and I can relate to that. I definitely like to do a lot of networking, where I've been able to actually find people, like you said, in the same journey. I'm a real estate investor, so that's where most of my background is. So I found a lot of real estate investors that I have been able to network with in the past, and have been able to do joint ventures and work together, do different projects. And again, a lot of times too, is not only that, it's just finding different ideas and seeing items from a different perspective. And so you can find that through these networking events. And so for me, it's been very helpful. I think it's better than going to a local bar or a restaurant and finding somebody that's gonna help you with your business or of that kind, right? So to me, I think it's definitely something that I encourage anyone, specifically people that are entrepreneurs, that are trying to find something within a particular niche, definitely to do that. Because you're right, there are so many different networking events for scientists, for public speaking, for salespeople, for whatever the case may be. I mean, there's thousands of those, right? And finding the right one for you, which will help you in your journey, is definitely something good. So in terms of sales, in public speaking, right? Now that you mentioned you're an introvert, that's very interesting. So, and you still get on stage and you do public speaking. Tell me more about that.
Well, I would say I'm probably not an extreme introvert like some people are.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is, back even in my corporate days, I would be speaking at maybe like an R&D retreat. I would be speaking to customers with salespeople. And I'll never forget when it was one of just our local company's small little R&D meetings. I'd been asked to share my project that I was working on, and I'm like, okay, no problem. And someone said, oh, so you're speaking at the meeting? Well, I'll definitely be there then. And I said, why? Well, because you do such a good job. It's so easy to listen to you. And I'm like, really? So suddenly I had this insight that, wow, maybe I'm kind of good at this. So then actually I was lucky my company brought in some training to help us become better speakers, especially those of us in R&D who were going out and talking to customers. Mm-hmm. And I thought, this is fun. And then when I realized, and I was also, I'll be honest, in high school, I was in forensics, which is like the speaking club. I was super shy, scared to death, petrified, but I think I liked it. I think that was some of my friends were in it, right? So that's why I did it. But here suddenly I'm thinking, wow, that's right. Most people are scared to death of speaking, and this is okay. I can do this.
Yeah. That's definitely true. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest fears that people have is public speaking. Yet, it's also the best way to get your message and or even educate or allow people to discover new ways of doing things, right? So, what do you speak on? What is your topics?
So my topics really are about how we can be more positive, really using the science of positive psychology in our daily lives. The benefits, not only are we happier and, just, less stressed, there's all of these studies that show that we're smarter. Being positive activates our learning centers. It motivates us and energizes us. It helps us have better relationships and work better with other people. And so there's so many benefits. So really my goal is to help people realize that, positivity is a choice, and there are ways to make that choice easier. There are ways to help us shift our thinking and just recognize, it's normal. We are naturally wired to focus on the problems, to dwell on all the things we don't like, but we have the power to override this instinct. And the more we do it and the more we practice it, the easier it gets. So it's very powerful stuff.
Right. So, and that I think that's great. And I think that's definitely something that even the people that are listening to our show and watching us, they might be going through a difficult time or a challenging time. How do you change your state of mind of something that might be negative or a challenging time to turn that into positive, even in the middle of something, difficult?
Well, there's a lot of different tools that I like to teach people. Mm-hmm. And so first of all, it's the biggest thing I think is recognizing that, again, when we're stuck in that negative thought, when we're starting in that downward spiral of dwelling on something that's just really upsetting us, stressing us out, sometimes maybe the first thing we need to do is to just distract ourselves and break out of this pattern, because the longer we focus on this, the more it pulls us in and pulls us down, and the harder it is to get out of that. So just recognizing, can we distract ourselves with some of my favorite things are, music is really powerful. If you have some favorite songs that help lift you up or calm you down, get you heart-centered, spending time with the right people, the right friends that lift us up, nurturing those relationships. I remember, especially being an introvert, I was a little freaked out about this idea that our social connections are so important, but then I learned it's not the quantity, it's the quality. So how can we make sure that even us introverts are taking time to connect and be around other people that lift us up and make us feel good?
Right. Yeah.
Another one of my favorite is, when you're feeling really anxious, take several slow, deep breaths, right? It helps lower that heart rate, that blood pressure. It's so powerful when we're in those moments where we're just like, I can't, I'm just so stressed out.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I love that. And when it comes down to really just surrounding yourself, like, going back to one of your points, surrounding yourself with different, with a group of people, right? I tend to believe that there's really three types of people that we want to be able to surround ourselves with, and that's obviously people that are positive, that are in the same journey as you, kind of, and that can probably be tied into networking or finding those people in that group. And those people, in my perspective, should be three kinds. Number one, you have people that are playing at a higher level than you are. They've been successful. They're doing all these great things, yet they're willing to help you out. So you can actually learn from them. You can probably call them mentors or not. Either way, you can learn from them. Then you have people that are playing at the same play field as you, level as you. They're in the same field as you, yet you guys are helping each other out. So you're edifying each other. You're motivating each other, right? And then you have people that are probably at a lower level than you are, and they're very eager to learn. Now you have the opportunity to reach down and lift them up with you. And I think that once you get that combination of those three different people into your group of your circle of group, and also you stay focused, and I love the breathing and all those different things that you have going on, then your mind starts shifting to more of a positive mindset. And even when it's difficult, right, you start taking into that aspect. I mean, I know for myself, I practice a lot of that, and I won't lie to you. Like you said, we are all human beings, and we're wired to get these negative thoughts, and it's always easy to go that route. I had a couple of challenging times this last couple of weeks because of multiple things that happened that were out of my control, and I could have been very pissed and mad. Yet I decided to just deal with what emerged and then continue to be positive, right? So it's definitely something good to have. So let's talk about your book, right? What was the idea of you writing your book? What came about, and what was the purpose of the book?
Well, I'm going to show you a copy of it really because I just have one. I have one handy here, so I'm going to just show this. Sharpen Your Positive Edge. Shifting your thoughts for more positivity and success. When I first started my business, oh my gosh, was 6-7 years ago. I remember, again, from my networking, people said, start creating some pieces of value. Let people, get to know you and your philosophy. So every week I started writing short positivity tips. And I started building an email list, sharing them on social media, just different ways to help us, shift that framework, right? Lift us out of that negative thinking. I like to say, I think we need an intravenous drip of positivity with today's news and social media and our just negative thinking. And this book, the other thing I learned from my networking friends is repurpose, right? Repurpose your content. So after several years of writing these tips, I decided to collate a bunch of them into different categories and put them in a book. It's funny. It's like, oh, this should be so easy and go so fast. Well, it still takes a lot of editing, a lot of, modifying to get it to work. But the book ended up being 80 different short tips.
Wow.
And the idea with this book is that on a page, there would be a tip, but then on the other page is a space for people to write about how to use that tip. So usually the idea, suggestion ends with a question like, how would you use this? Or how can you practice this next week? And then the idea is if you actually write it down, you're much more likely to remember it, to do it, so it's more of a workbook. It's not a book you sit down and just read. I mean, you certainly could, but it's idea of when you have 3 to 5 minutes, you're in the kitchen, you're waiting for something to, finish cooking or baking, or someone even said, put it in your bathroom. I'm like, okay, sure, put it in the bathroom.
No, that's awesome. And definitely that's a good way to connect with more people too. And now based on, you trying to really spread the positive psychology, definitely with your book, with your speaking engagements, all of that is kind of tied in together and really getting your work out to more people. Can you share a couple of those tips that you have in your book so that the listeners can kind of get an idea?
You bet. I'll so here's what I love to share. Again, it's so easy to not even in the present moment, focus on what's bad, but to remember, right, and pull back those traumas, those stressful moments, and replay them and be mad all over again. And tip number 2 actually here is, I love to share this one. This is the idea, like when we're having a negative memory, this one is called Hugs from Grandma, Saving Positive Memories. And it goes through these ideas of, although we tend to focus on the bad memories, we can purposely notice it happening, pause, notice, and then choose what would be a more positive memory I can remember. And if we actually write these down, it's easier to pull them up in those stressful moments when we need to distract ourselves. So this one is all about my grandmother, who would be, baking in her kitchen and singing, and how much she loved her grandkids, and the smell of her cookies and her hugs and the sound of the music. And so when we can think of all 5 senses from that memory and really immerse ourselves in it, it's a great way to be an antidote to those negative, stressful memories. Here's another one I love. Do you rise and shine, setting your morning intention for a brighter day? I know some people are morning people, right? They hop out of bed, they're happy, they're motivated. That's not me. The bed is warm, it's soft, I'm comfortable. So when I lay there for just a few extra minutes before getting up and purposely think of either things I'm grateful for or something I'm excited about or looking forward to, it just changes your whole day.
Right, and I think it comes down to 2 things that you mentioned that are, I think, very important. Number 1 is you have the choice to choose, right? You have the ability to choose between positive and negative, and even in a negative state of mind, the way we're wired and the way our mind is so powerful. I mean, in the minute you know how to tap into that and you know how to really work with your mind, you can really go from a negative state of mind to a positive state of mind. I like the exercise. I like the fact that you're creating a pause and you're saying, okay, pause for a second from this negative thought and try to shift your attention to something positive. Go back to the past, something that brought you love and tendering and all that stuff. I really love that. And I think it comes down to that. It comes down to you having the ability to choose. And on your second point, I also like that. I like the fact that one of the things that I do when I wake up, even if I'm feeling like kind of down or tired, because I'm not a morning person either, by the way, I'm more of a night person. I go through a series of what I consider to be habits, right? I do some affirmations. I say what I'm grateful for. And yet I say it with just looking at myself in the mirror, and I smile so that I can change my physiology. When changing my physiology, then you have more of that connectivity to yourself and to the meaning of what you're doing. So there's definitely different things you can do to get you in a right positive state of mind in the morning, specifically in the morning. And I do believe that how you start in the morning is how you're going to pretty much go on throughout the day, right? If you're in a positive state of mind, your day is going to be a lot more powerful. So what and with that said, what are some of the things that you do? Obviously you have all these wonderful tips. What are some things that you do specifically to keep you on that positive psychology, positive state of mind?
And what I love about what you just asked is, what do I do? Because we're all different, right? Mm-hmm. That's the key I've really learned from this, is different personalities, different lifestyles. We have to find what works for us. Mm-hmm. Some of the things that I love to do is, honestly, I love yoga. I am so grateful. I have the most awesome yoga studio close by. That's been a huge benefit for me. I love using music. I have those playlists that help me just really get centered and grounded and grateful. I love to get outside, get fresh air. When it's cold out and living in Wisconsin, it's kind of tough. So I am kind of a wimpy that way. I like the weather to be nice, but even to step outside and get some little bit of fresh air can be a big thing for me. I love spending time with my pets. I have a dog and 2 cats. They can make you laugh. They can make you smile. And again, the affirmations. And here's one of the things that I think has really helped me a lot, and that is practicing on the easy stuff, you know, the easy stuff, just those moments when I notice I'm getting frustrated because something's not quite going my way, or I mess something up. Just, you know, simple little thing like, oh gosh, what would be a good one? Cooking in the kitchen. And here's, okay, I'm kind of a multitasker, even though I know you're not supposed to. I'll have something cooking in the kitchen and I'll come like, oh, I'm just gonna go check something real quick on the computer. And then pretty soon I'm sucked in and I'm like, oh no, I forgot about, you know, this cooking in the kitchen, and I burned something or ruined something. And just like, this is a great opportunity to practice these little things in our day that kind of would make us a little frustrated. It's a great time to say, okay, what can I learn from this? Maybe I should set a timer when I leave the kitchen. How can I grow? How can it help me be more understanding of other people when they make mistakes? You know, realizing we're all human. So there's really a shift in my mind of just saying, yeah, when things are not the way I want them to be, how can I see it differently and use it as an opportunity? And again, I'm not good at this all the time. It takes practice. I see I'm definitely getting better.
Right. And I like that too. Again, that's another great point. It's like, instead of beating yourself up for something that might have gone wrong or might have seemed to be like a mistake, you just said it. What can I learn from this? What can I take away from this that is going to help me the next time I face something similar? And that's, again, another thing that I tell people is that there are no failures. There are only opportunities or lessons. It's a lesson or an opportunity for you to become better the next time. And again, when you start seeing things from that perspective, you definitely really change, the way you see things from a different lens, right? So if people wanted to, connect with you, work with you, do you do like one-on-one clients, or do you work with just, corporations? How does that work with you?
What I mostly do is trainings, workshops, keynotes, different speaking type of programs. But for individuals, I have a lot of resources on my website. They can sign up for weekly positivity tips. There's an online course. There's my book. I have a whole list of resources of other books, other websites on my website. My goal is really to be a positivity catalyst, to help spread the ripple, to help people learn these things, and then to spread it themselves to their family, their communities, their businesses. I do think out of all the different things, if there's one place where we need a little help staying positive, it is at work. So that's why I love to come in and do trainings for companies, for groups, for departments. It's so powerful because not only does it help people be, happier at work and more successful and have more enjoyable work. Obviously, if your people are happy and feeling good, they're going to, be more motivated and more innovative and more productive. So it's a win-win in so many ways.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love your message. You have a message here that you wanted to share. And I love that is you have the power to choose, even during these difficult times, which we are going through some very difficult times right now. You can choose to give into the stress and negativity, or you can intentionally focus on the good and use this time to learn and grow. And I love that because, again, it goes back to the point that in every difficult situation, there's an opportunity to grow. There's something that you can do. And with that, instead of dwelling on the negative or dwelling on the difficult time or just wasting that time, because, by the way, time is the one thing we cannot get back, and time is very precious. You got to be able to go back and say, hey, what can I do here? What can I learn? How can I become a better person? How can I come up with a new idea? Maybe you wanted to start a new job or create something for yourself, a business. Like, this is a good time for us to go to and do those things. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And I think right now the difference between those people who let themselves get stuck in the negative and those people who can rise above and not just focus on what they can't do and what they're losing, those people who can use this as an opportunity, like you say, to do things, to learn things, to start new things, to get things done, versus just wanting to, feel sad and discouraged and negative, it's the future is out there and it's coming. This will be over. And so place yourself in a position to move ahead and be better off.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Tina, I have one last question for you before we wrap this up. If there was one tip, and I know you have 80 tips, so if there was one tip that you can give our listeners and viewers of what they can do today to overcome something or anything in their life, what would that be?
I think before I discovered positive psychology, I never realized that we all have a shift our thinking, that our thoughts really make up our reality. They are how we interpret the world. And when we can get better at paying attention to our thoughts, to noticing them, and then deciding, do I need shift? Is this helpful? Am I wasting time? Am I wasting my life in this thought? Or how can I instead shift to a better memory, something I'm grateful for, one of my affirmations, something. It's a superpower we really all have. And I get it. It's not easy, especially at first, but just little baby steps, even 3%, 1%, right? Practice, it gets easier. It's a journey.
Yeah, and again, that's I love that. I really love that. And it comes down to just shifting that mindset. And by the way, the thoughts in our brain, it really costs us no money, right? And when we look at it from that perspective, it's like it's so valuable. It's like it's worth really all the money in the world, yet it's free. It's at your disposal. So you gotta be able to use that and shift that. And so I really enjoy that. If people wanted to connect with you or find you, what are some places where they can find you?
Definitely, I would say check out my website. It's thepositiveedge.net. If you Google Positive Edge, if you Google Tina Hallis, you will find me. I love to hear from people, what they're doing, their favorite books, their ideas, favorite quotes.
Nice.
And so, yes, shoot me an email. You can find contact information on my website. That might be the easiest way.
Awesome. Well, Tina, I really had a great time speaking to you today. I'm so thankful that you came on the show, and I just want to say thank you for being here.
Thank you, Cesar. Enjoyed speaking to you too, and love what you're doing. Thanks so much for getting the word out there.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. And for the rest of you guys, please make sure that you check out Tina. Remember, she has a book, 80 tips that you can utilize in your life on day-to-day basis. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share this video and this podcast. Please stay tuned for the next interviews, and I'll get all the information out to you guys. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Do you feel stuck? Do you feel like life is against you? Do you feel like you can't get ahead? Well, we have a podcast for you. You can overcome anything with Cesar Espino, real estate investor and real estate coach, NLP practitioner, and author of the book of the same name. Cesar will show you a way to overcome anything in your life through talking with people from all walks of life that have done just that. You Can Overcome Anything podcast available on Spreaker.com.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you tuned in to this podcast. You can find me at Spreaker.com, where you can like and subscribe. And to learn more about myself and my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at Facebook under Cesar R. Espino. Once again, thanks for joining me. I am looking forward to having you at the next episode, and know that you truly can overcome anything.